Nobody checked on you, not the way you needed. Not the way you watched other kids get checked on, with a knock on the bedroom door, a hand on the shoulder, a voice that said, "I noticed you seem quiet today, are you okay?" You waited for that. Maybe for years, and somewhere along the way, without ever making a conscious decision, you stopped waiting. Here is the question I want you to carry with you until the very end of this video. What does a child's brain do when the person who is supposed to notice them doesn't? Hold that question. Because the answer explains something about you that you have been trying to understand your entire adult life. Think about what your childhood actually looked like on the inside, not the outside. Not the version you would describe to someone who asked. The inside. You learned early that your feelings were an inconvenience, not because anyone said that directly, but because when you cried, the room got uncomfortable. When you were scared, you were told you were fine. When something hurt you, the response was a distraction, a dismissal, or silence. So you learned something. You learned that your inner world was not safe to bring into the outer world. You learned to read the room before you read your own heart. You learned to ask, "Are you okay?" before you ever asked yourself the same question. And you became very, very good at being fine, even when you weren't, especially when you weren't. There is a specific name for what happened inside your brain during those years. Psychologists call it insecure attachment formation, specifically the avoidant or anxious subtype, depending on how your caregivers responded to your needs. When a child's emotional needs are consistently unmet, not through cruelty necessarily, but through absence, distraction, emotional unavailability, or simple not noticing, the brain does something remarkable. It adapts, it reorganizes its entire emotional architecture around one central conclusion: needing people is dangerous. Because needing people and not having those needs met is a pain the young brain cannot process and cannot escape. So the brain builds a solution. It either learns to need less, to become self-sufficient so completely that asking for help feels physically wrong. Or it learns to need loudly, to become hypervigilant about connection, anxious when people pull away, unable to rest in relationships because rest feels like the moment before abandonment. Both of these are the same wound, one turned inward, one turned outward, and you have been living inside one of them, possibly both at different points in your life without ever knowing why. Stop for a moment, because what I just described, that is not a character flaw. That is your brain at age 4 or 6 or 9, doing the most intelligent thing it knew how to do with the information it was given. Your brain looked at the evidence available to it and built the most logical conclusion it could. The evidence said, when you need something, nothing comes. The conclusion was, stop needing. Or need in a way that forces a response. That was survival. That was brilliance. That was a child protecting themselves with the only tools they had. The problem is that the brain doesn't automatically uninstall survival programs when the danger is gone. And so you have been carrying a program that was written for a 6-year-old into rooms, relationships, and moments where it no longer serves you. And it has been costing you more than you realize. Here is the psychological mechanism, and it is important that you understand this completely. When a child is consistently not checked on, not seen, not soothed, not sought out, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is the brain's primary stress response system, becomes dysregulated. In simple terms, your brain's alarm system was kept in a state of low-grade activation for so long during your developmental years that it recalibrated its baseline. What this means in your daily life right now is this. Your nervous system treats ordinary moments of disconnection, a friend who takes hours to reply, a partner who seems distracted, a colleague who walks past without acknowledging you, as emergencies. Not consciously, you don't decide to feel the way you feel. Your body decides before your brain catches up. Your chest tightens, your thoughts accelerate. A cold, quiet dread moves through you that you have learned to cover immediately with logic or humor or busyness. Think of it this way. Imagine a smoke detector that was installed in a house where there were fires constantly during its first years of operation. That detector recalibrated its sensitivity. Now it goes off when someone lights a candle. It goes off when bread is toasting. It goes off in the middle of the night when there is no fire anywhere. Your nervous system is that detector. It was calibrated during years when the fires were real, and now it cannot tell the difference between a fire and a candle. This is not weakness. This is precision engineering that is simply running in the wrong environment. Now here is what this looks like in specific moments that you will recognize immediately. You are in a conversation with someone you care about and they go slightly quiet. Most people notice and move on. Your brain logs it, files it, and begins building a case. Did I say something wrong? Have they pulled away? Is this the beginning of the end? You replay the last 3 conversations looking for the moment you ruined it. You find something, you always find something. Because a brain trained to watch for danger is extraordinarily good at finding evidence of danger, even when the danger is not there. Or someone gives you a compliment and before the warmth of it can reach you, a voice inside says they don't mean it or they want something or this will be taken away. You cannot receive love cleanly. It always arrives with an asterisk, a waiting for the catch, a bracing for the moment it is revealed to have been conditional all along. Because the love you experienced as a child, or the absence of it, taught you that love comes with conditions you cannot always see. This is the villain that has been in your story from the beginning, not a person, a pattern. A neural architecture built in childhood that has been quietly interpreting every relationship, every interaction. Every moment of connection through the lens of a child who learned that being unseen was the default. And it has stolen from you. It has stolen your ability to rest in relationships. It has stolen your ability to ask for what you need without shame. It has stolen your ability to believe, truly believe, that someone who loves you today will not leave tomorrow. And you did not choose any of this. You were a child. You were simply a child in a house where nobody knocked on your door. Here is what you can begin to do with this understanding. The first thing is to learn to name the activation when it happens. When your chest tightens because someone is taking long to reply, instead of immediately moving to fix or flee or catastrophize, say to yourself out loud or in your mind, "My detector is going off. This is old information. This is my 6-year-old brain, not my present reality." This works because naming an emotional state activates the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, which creates distance between the trigger and the response. Research by neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman showed that simply labeling an emotion reduces amygdala activation by a measurable amount. You are not suppressing the feeling. You are changing who in your brain is responding to it. The second thing is to begin practicing what psychologists call corrective emotional experiences. This means deliberately staying in moments of connection past the point where your brain tells you to leave. When someone offers help, accept it, even when it feels wrong. When someone says, "I was thinking about you," let it land, even for 5 seconds before the asterisk arrives. When a relationship feels safe, resist the urge to test it by pulling away to see if they follow. Your brain learned its patterns through repetition. It unlearns them the same way. Every time you stay when the old program says run, you write one new line of code, one experience at a time. The third thing is the most important and the hardest. You must grieve what you did not receive, not to stay in it, but because it is still there inside you as an open question. A child who is never checked on becomes an adult who does not know how to check on themselves, who does not know that their own inner world deserves the same attention they give to everyone else. The grief is not about the past. It is about finally giving that child, the one who waited, the acknowledgement they were owed. You were worth checking on. You were always worth checking on. And the fact that it didn't happen is a fact about the capacity of the people around you at the time. It was never a fact about your worth. Now remember the question from the beginning. What does a child's brain do when the person who is supposed to notice them doesn't? Here is the answer. It notices for them. It becomes so finely tuned to the emotional states of everyone around it that it can read a room in seconds. It becomes the person who checks on everyone else because it knows in its body what it feels like when no one comes. The empathy you carry, the sensitivity you have been told is too much. The way you notice when someone is not okay before they have said a word, that did not come from nowhere. It came from a child who needed someone to have that skill and learned it themselves. You became the thing you needed. That is not damage. That is one of the rarest forms of human transformation that exists. You are not broken from what happened to you. You are extraordinarily and sometimes painfully awake. And the work now, the real work, is not to fix yourself. It is to turn toward yourself with the same attention you have spent a lifetime giving to everyone else. Nobody checked on you then. You can check on yourself now, and that changes everything.